What's going on, everybody? It's Dapper Dill, and we're finally going to finish this water meth kit in my Volvo. I finally have everything we need. So it's taken so long because it's called a VC50 controller. It's a gauge, and you control the meth. You can control how much boost you want the meth to start injecting, and that didn't work, so we had to go out, send a return all the way to Texas, and wait for one to come back. But now we have it, so let's hope this one works now. Another thing I was waiting for was this adapter that you can use to tap into a silicone or plastic hose. This small piece goes into a hole I have to drill in this lower charge pipe. I have to look at the charge pipe to see the orientation, but we're gonna drill as close as we can to the throttle body. That way it goes right in. And of course, we have the boost juice. Highly recommended to use this over anything else, especially like that cheap windshield wiper fluid you can get at Walmart. It's highly recommended to use the boost juice. It's meant for the kit. So first, to get to the lower charge pipe, it's right down here. So this whole intake box is gonna have to come off. Upper charge pipe is gonna have to come off. We'll put something to cover the holes left over from the upper charge pipe. That way nothing gets in them and messes anything up. And then from there, we can remove the lower charge pipe. I do have a spare one, so I'm gonna drill into that and take mine out. I think the knock sensor might be underneath it on the engine, so probably gonna try to replace that if I can as well. I don't even know if it doesn't work, so I'm gonna try to avoid replacing it if I can. That didn't take too long, so now that all that's out, I'm just gonna get a couple of bags to cover the holes left from the charge pipe. Oh wow, you guys can't see. It looks like it's gonna be a real pain in the ass to get under the manifold to get to the lower charge pipe. So we'll see how that goes. So I actually had some rubber gloves, so just covered it up with one of those, make sure nothing gets inside of it. I'm gonna try to push it out of the way without ripping the glove now. So on that lower charge pipe is a clamp like this, and it's actually not difficult to get to, as difficult as I thought it would be, so we're gonna go ahead and take that out. We're gonna, same clamp is right down here if you can see it. We're gonna take that off and it should pull right out. And we're gonna have to deal with this somehow. I don't wanna take that off if I don't have to, so instead of using that new one I have, it's not new, it's used off of my friend's car. But it's the same as this, so maybe we'll just drill into this, make sure everything's completely cleaned out, nothing can get into the throttle body, and then just put it back in. I don't know if you can see, but there's definitely oil in there, which is expected. It's not dripping or anything, nothing crazy. If you look closely, this little piece hooks around this small piece, so I'd use some vice grips to pinch it and then get a screwdriver underneath it to pop it up. So hopefully it's easier to put back on. So the orientation on the pipe is like this. So I think we're gonna go right here, drill into it in this spot, and that's where we're gonna have the meth injection inject in and shoot up into the throttle body. Luckily this little piece comes with directions. That way we know what size of a hole. It does say to use goop sealant, and I don't have any, so I'm actually gonna go out and find some goop sealant, and then we'll continue from there. So we're not gonna use the goop sealant they recommended. I have this ultra gray sealant. It's like a gasket maker, so we're gonna use that instead. It'll have the same effect. It'll create a seal, that way there's no air leaks, and we'll be good to go. Alright, so back where we were, it says drill an 11/16 hole in the desired mount location. So we're gonna go ahead and do that now. I have every single drill bit except an 11/16, so Now I gotta take my bike to Walmart or someplace and go grab an 11/16 drill bit. So after going to Walmart, Harbor Freight, and Home Depot, none of them had the drill bit size that I needed. So I finally went to like Johnson's True Value hardware store, and they had an 11/16 drill bit, but it was $30. It was like a Milwaukee one. So I decided just to go with this because it's $5, and they had it in 11/16 as well. So we could finally do it after like 2 hours of looking. Alright, and let's double check 11/16. Okay, and we are good to drill in right here too. It won't be in the way of anything. Alright, so now we're just gonna get all these little pieces off the edge. That way they don't end up in it. And I'm gonna use an air compressor and just blow everything out that just went in first. So an 11/16 hole would be great if this was 11/16, but it's not. It's much bigger. So now we have another problem. So I'm going to call Snow Performance and see what's going on. I've honestly had nothing but problems with dealing with Snow Performance and Nitrous Express. The first big is the gauge they gave me that didn't work, and now this adapter that's far bigger than 11/16. So it's just annoying at this point. They say theirs screws right in with an 11/16 hole, but if you can look, 11/16 hole, and it's not going to screw into that. It doesn't. No, it's coming from the bottom and then it screws in, but it's obviously not going to. Right, while I wait for a step drill bit to use to get a bigger hole in that lower charge pipe, we're going to go ahead and start installing the gauge. Hopefully this one works. I've already gone ahead and I've removed this plastic piece right here. I just use a trim removal tool and just pop the clips out, and it just pulls right out. And next, because I already lost the two on the inside, there's two screws. They're either a T25 or T27 on each side, and it's going to take this top piece off. That's because my gauge is up here over the speaker. I have IPD's a 3-pod, 3-gauge thing. So I have the wires run through the dash and then into the fuse box over here, and then it runs through, and pain in the butt. So it is T25. I'm gonna take those screws out and pop this piece off. See, right now I have my boost line and the wires for this gauge run through here right now, and we're gonna have a bunch of other wires run through as well. And this other gauge acts as a boost gauge as well, so I'm just gonna tap off of this line I have instead of just going two off of the original one. The ends are taped so we could try to feed them all through at once. That way you don't have to do it one by one. That would take a long time. Speaker right here pops right out. I think it's just 4 T25s. They unscrew, it'll come out. Alright, so I have it routed in through the second hole, which is where I want my gauge, and then through this little slot on the speaker. That's a tight fit. And I'll have to get in there again after just to put a piece of metal to secure this gauge in, because it's kind of loose in there. So because these wires aren't long enough, at least from where I am, I had to extend the wires. That way they'd reach the actual kit. Alright, use some electrical tape, get them all wired together so they're bundled up nicer and it'll go through easier. It takes a bit of luck trying to get it through, but finally. We got it in. There's like AC tubing and stuff. Okay, so I had this 15 amp fuse. It recommends using something that's gonna be 12 volts. The pump's 11 amps. So this is to the 12 volt socket in the car. I do have my IPD gauge running off of that as well. And I know you're not supposed to, but I tapped into that. So hopefully it works. We'll find out. And it's working, finally. Look at that. Nice. Okay, so let's injection start, injection full, power nozzle off, injection off for now. Looks good. So everything's wired in and run through. You don't need the yellow wire unless you're doing multi-stage with your meth kit. And I don't have the level installed into the tank right now, so it's not going to tell me when it's getting low. I'll do that at another time. But you can see it comes through, and right down here all the wires. So now we're going to go ahead and install the line right here, and we're just going to get the line set up off of this piece, and then we'll wait until we have the right tool to do the lower charge pipe and drill that hole bigger. So I managed to make the hole just big enough by taking that step drill and just running it along the edges. And now we're just going to use that ultra gray gasket sealer and seal it on there, screw it in, get it installed. This is taking a lot longer than I wanted it to. Before we do that, we're going to take the air compressor and blow it out and make sure all the debris is out. The last thing I want is to get some plastic shit in that in my throttle body. Oh no, this stuff's messy. Oh, that is awful. That is awful. Okay. Or I could just drop it in. That's good too. Don't do that. Don't do what I just did. Drop it in. Not ideal. Try to push it in as much as we can. Make sure it's creating that seal. Now we do the same thing around the side right here. Try to get a little bit all around the edge. Now we'll get the nozzle screwed in, and then we'll get the pipe installed, and we'll be ready to start putting everything back together. Okay, so we have the lower charge pipe back on. We're just tightening everything up. I'm gonna start installing everything, all that gasket stuff, while it dries. Hopefully it dries quicker than 24 hours. I know 24 hours is when it's like fully set to go. Hopefully we have no air leaks, anything like that. Fingers crossed. Let's see what happens. Now that that's on, we can go ahead and start putting everything back together. Everything's back together. I'm gonna give it about an hour or two or so to let that sealant dry more. I feel like I took a lot more stuff off than I put back on, but I'm pretty sure everything's back on, so hopefully I'm not forgetting anything. Alright, so now just gonna clean everything up with the mess I made, go chill out, get some food, and then we'll be back for the unveiling. I guess it'll be like a ceremonial boost juice pouring instead of ribbon cutting, and we'll get the car started and see how it goes. Alright, I have no idea why that was in there. Make sure there's gonna be no other surprises. Alright. I probably should be using a funnel, but we'll see. So this holds 3 quarts, and the meth injection is 175 milliliters per minute, but it won't always be running through the car, only when I hit a certain amount of boost. Right now it's set at 5. I'm gonna go up with that a little bit, so it's not 5. Because I don't need it injecting this the entire time. We'll go wipe off the little mess I made. Nice and clean. I actually think we're gonna go take her to get her washed. Clips are broken, so these pop up all the time. Let's get this started and make sure there's no weird noises. Or things like exploding or leaking. Gauge is working. As much as I enjoy working on my car myself, I'm always scared when I install something, because I don't know if it's gonna break my car or actually work. Alright, the boost gauge works. That's good. It's not leaking. That's cool, I can just control it from this little gauge. Power nozzle, I guess, is if you have a second nozzle. And then the graph, I think, is how much it's injecting in. Oh, alright. I can feel the difference. I could feel it. I need to get my car tuned. Oh my god.